One man is dead and several others injured in two freak accidents. Sugar production up by more than 33% as this year's harvest season winds down. The Home Affairs Minister reveals diesel thieves targeting critical infrastructure. And in sports, two bajan surfers move into round 3 at the World Games in El Salvador.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Bowen. Workers at the Barbados Water Authority are tonight in shock, in mourning and questioning how one of their colleagues lost his life in an accident in Boscobel, St. Peter this afternoon. The deceased is a 56-year-old from Fort Hill, St. Peter, who was at the time of the crash the passenger in a water tanker which overturned while traveling along Boscobel Road in the area of Baltic. While the name of the deceased is being withheld, the driver is 46-year-old Rihanna Wilkinson. Wilkinson was pulled from the vehicle and treated at the scene for his injuries. Police Communications and Public Affairs Officer Inspector Rodney Innes gave details on what occurred.
We are told, and we're still conducting our investigation, that colleague, the front seat passenger, was thrown from the vehicle and apparently received injuries, fatal injuries. He was pronounced dead at the scene. And at this point in time, we would want to convey our condolences to not only the family and friends and relatives of that individual, but also the colleagues of the Barbados Water Authority. They're here in their numbers, and they're grieving together.
An eyewitness also spoke to CBC News, giving an account of what she saw.
I saw when the truck came down and it leaned on the side like this here, so I thought it was coming at me. So I tried to get it off the wall and run, but it went over the banking. I run by a house and called the lady and tell her, come, Brenda, come quick, come and go and help me. So I'm around with the people.
Prime Minister Mia Motley has extended condolences at the tragic death of the BWA worker. She says the work he did meant that not only did he provide an important commodity, but he also saw many at their most vulnerable and exposed moments. The Prime Minister says no doubt there is sadness not only in his household tonight, right now, but across the BWA family and in the households where, as a tanker assistant, the deceased brought much needed relief. She says his service will never go unappreciated and thanked him on behalf of the government and the people of Barbados. Prime Minister Motley also asked the country to say a prayer for the full and speedy recovery of the truck's driver, who is a patient of the hospital, as well as all who have been hurt in any way by the tragedy. Meanwhile, the screams of a man in pain echoed through Black Rock this morning in what was another freak accident. In this video provided by our makeup artist Joanna Jones, we see that it happened at Exquisite Doors and Windows opposite KFC near the plaza. That incident, which initially involved one man being pinned under a huge pane of glass, resulted in two people being seriously hurt and another nursing injuries to his hand. Police and fire officials responded along with the ambulance personnel who treated the men at the scene before taking them to the hospital for further medical attention. An eyewitness who works with the business spoke to CBC News about the accident. He says it started as just another normal day on the job.
As I was working on the vehicle, we just heard a clash, then screams for help. And as I dropped my stuff to look around, I thought it was an accident on the main road. Then I realized I had a lot of commotion with the container that was being unpacked. And then I realized we could have barely saw the guy, but he was covered by a lot of glass. And then second set of glass as he was screaming came. And that was pretty much it. But the guys in the Barbados Fire Department came, the ambulance came, the police was here. They actually made it possible, even though we were panicking and trying to get him out. He got out. It's good to see that he's moving. It seems his leg is broken, but it was a scary sight regardless.
To some other news now, the 2023 sugar harvest closed with the initial numbers showing a significant increase in production over last year. Final figures are being still tabulated, but after a meeting at the Portville factory today, the word from officials point to the best harvest in recent years. Trevor Thorpe reports.
Portville factory manager Marlon Monroe and other sugar officials were in an upbeat mood as the final canes of the 2023 harvest were being offloaded at the St. James factory. When CBC caught up with him, he was accompanied by Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Agricultural Management Company, Orlando Arthurly, Production Manager Shanice Stevenson, and Chief Engineer Bruce Gopal. While noting the season had its challenges, Mr. Monroe gave the thumbs up to the Barbados Workers Union, the Sugar Industry Staff Association, and the workers who made this year's crop the success it was.
Our overall sugar production, we're up overall last year's production. The production manager will speak to those figures. And as indicated by the CEO, we are receiving our last canes today across the rail bridge this evening. And then we will go into final boil off, and that's where we are for this year's crop.
Ms. Stevenson said the good fortunes this year was also the result of a higher quality of cane coming into the factory. She drew reference to previous crops.
Last year's crop, we would have seen purities of around just over 70%. This year's purities were up to over 80%, which would have translated to an increase in sugar production of over 38% compared to last year's crop. This year, we are averaging just about over 10 on the TCTS compared to last year's, which would have been around 12. So we've seen that decrease in the tonnage of cane that it takes to produce a ton of sugar. And molasses-wise, we have seen an increase in that also due to the increase in the cane that we have received this year. 6,600 tons compared to the 6,300 tons that we would have received last year.
She added that it was a team effort.
To date, we have received just over 108,000 tons of cane compared to last year, which our crop finished at 93,000 tons, just over 93,000 tons of cane, a 16% increase. So overall, we would say that this crop has been tremendous. I would like to thank all those who participated. It has been a team effort. This year's crop would have seen its challenges compared to every other crop, but with teamwork, grace of God, we managed to get through it like every other crop.
Sugar officials say the figures given today are expected to go up as the books are closed in a few days. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
Diesel thieves have been targeting the island's hurricane shelters, the Barbados Water Authority and other critical infrastructure. Minister of Home Affairs and Information Wilfred Abrams made the revelation during this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. He disclosed that the thieves have been siphoning off diesel from tanks at locations across the island, which were intended to power up generators in the event of a disaster. Mr. Abrams says while this has been going on for some time, it has increased in recent times.
The decision has been taken not to pre-fill all of the diesel storage. And that is because when you fill the diesel storage, there's so many installations that it's not possible to man all of them. We cannot have security at all of them. In some instances, there are cameras, but the cameras don't seem to deter people who come with masks. They survey the area and they move so as to avoid detection by the cameras. So what is meant to be something that creates a seamless transition in the generation of and the distribution of water to the benefit of Barbadians has become hamstrung by the fact that some people insist on stealing the diesel.
Mr. Abrams says as a result, in the event of an approach of a weather system, in addition to pre-positioning food, equipment and manpower, the authorities will also need to fill up diesel tanks. He revealed that only last night, the Barbados Meteorological Service's radar in St. Joseph was targeted.
The people ran away. Then the people came back. The police were detached to the area and the persons fled the scene. And they left behind a number of filled 5-gallon containers of diesel. And in the roadway leading up to it, we found other empty containers. So they intended to drain that diesel tank. And that is what that radar installation is critical. It is critical for our early warning. It's critical for us to be able to see what is going on. The radar cannot be down, that radar also informs the air traffic control of weather systems. That radar is critical to the national security of Barbados.
Mr. Abrams says he hopes anyone caught stealing diesel from the island's critical infrastructure feels the full weight of the law. He's also urging people not to purchase the stolen fuel. Coming up, the fire chief wants more done to prevent fires in derelict buildings. The ease with which people have access to derelict and abandoned buildings is a concern for the Barbados Fire Service. The latest fire occurred this week at the old Ministry of Health complex at Jamet's Lane. Chief Fire Officer Errol Maynard says these fires have resulted from individuals doing various unsanctioned activities in the buildings. Some derelict buildings are being occupied by vagrants and homeless people.
On record, we have approximately 11 fires, including derelict buildings, and that is 9 of which we had to respond to Jamet's Lane alone. And in the Jamet's Lane fires, we recognize that it either involved built-up rubbish within the building that persons had lit, or it involved the structure of the building, that what remained of the building. And it is evident that persons, you'll find pots, you'll find or clothing and such like, which were not originally part of the structure.
Mr. Maynard wants owners of these buildings to take action by restricting access.
The owners need to clean them out and board them up to restrict access. I know although you might put a board in and such like that, people will still break in, but the ease of access is the problem. If you have to board it up and some person goes into it, you will know because you will see some kind of damage, but generally there's like free access and people will go into these buildings and do whatever they like, all sorts of activities, and then it becomes a problem not only for the Barbados Fire Service, but for the neighbors and the other businesses.
Barbados has put the plight of small island developing states and that of CARICOM states in the spotlight at the first meeting of the Preparatory Committee of the 4th International Conference on Small Island Developing States. The permanent representative of Barbados to the United Nations, Francois Jackman, told the forum that countries in the Caribbean are facing a deepening debt crisis brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic and other recent crises. He is, however, upbeat with discussions taking place on the creation of a multi-vulnerability index and the Bridgetown Initiative, as these two can lend support to the unlocking of much-needed finance for SIDS.
We look forward to discussions which will take place at various stages of the preparatory process on the progress to date and remaining gaps and challenges in the implementation of the Barbados Programme of Action, the Mauritius Strategy and the Samoa Pathway, including the SIDS Partnership Framework. Similarly, we are keen to engage in the discussion on the new and emerging challenges facing SIDS. We must together table real and concrete proposals to address them, including through the strengthening of collaborative partnerships between SIDS and the international community.
Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, David Kamashong, has called for greater collaboration between African and Caribbean governments. He says they can work with each other in addressing critical internal issues. The suggestion was put forward as he addressed thematic discussion on Pan-Africanism for dignity, justice and peace during the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent taking place at UN headquarters.
There's no reason why the governments of the African Union should not be partnering with the governments of CARICOM in working out and implementing with the people of Haiti a solution to the crisis in that heroic Caribbean nation. Similarly, the statesmen of CARICOM should be sitting in council with their AU peers and lending their insights, experience, and resources to the task of peacemaking and nation building in Africa.
Ambassador Kamashong also used the forum to promote the Bridgetown initiative.
Let us also use this space to discuss how the entirety of global Africa can rally around and support the Bridgetown initiative, that cutting-edge, revolutionary plan that was crafted in Barbados last year to fundamentally reform the inherently unjust and unequal global economic and financial system, thereby bringing relief and much-needed support to the black and brown nations and people of this world. I urge everyone to research the Bridgetown initiative and let us rally around it.
Students and academic staff of the Barbados Community College will be presented with new learning opportunities in Canada. This after the institution signed a memorandum of understanding with Academy Canada recently, outlining several areas in which the two will collaborate. However, officials from both campuses stressed the relationship will not be one-sided, as opportunities for student and staff exchanges in both directions are being discussed. Academy Canada's Vice President of the Academic Department and Chief Operating Officer, Lisa Lovelady, said the transfer of credits for advanced standing and articulation agreements between the two institutions are high on the agenda.
We're going to explore opportunities for developing curriculum together, perhaps to facilitate staff and faculty training. And with technology these days, using so much video conferencing, online learning, there are many opportunities to leverage what each school already does and see if we can complement one another to have an even better trained staff altogether, everybody. And finally, we're going to look for opportunities for student and faculty exchanges as part of a larger internationalization plan.
Meanwhile, Registrar of the Barbados Community College, Roger Worrell, said the BCC is pleased to have these types of relationships with Canadian educational institutions, which allow the college students to move seamlessly. The senior official noted items like the planned articulation agreement and credit transfers stand both institutions in good stead.
I think that would benefit our students because obviously it will expose them to different areas in terms of technology, in different areas in terms of teaching methodologies, etc. So in all, the agreement is beneficial to our students, and the possibility of staff exchanges, which would help build capacity in relation to our staff complement. So in all, I think both institutions will benefit tremendously from this agreement, and BCC continues to have good relations with institutions in Canada. And we will continue to ensure that we create agreements that benefit not just the staff but our students as well.
Sports Night is brought to you by Powerade. Pause is power. And the Sunny. Live life the sunny after.
All right, time for us to go into the sports world now with Anne-Marie Burke. Anne-Marie, good evening. Have you ever surfed?
No, person, but I have a love affair of the sea either way. Nice. So I've not tried it, but it's on my to-do list.
Good. I'll mark you.
Good. Chelsea Tua had yet another good day on the waves as she has advanced to the third round of the women's competition at the ISA World Surf Games in La Bocana, El Salvador. Chelsea was the winner of her heat when she posted best wave totals of 6.73 and 6.17 for an overall 12.90 points. Speaking after her win, she said practice has paid off for her performance so far.
I've actually had a lot of good training at home because we've had a really brilliant year of waves. So I've been having some bigger wave practice. I've been breaking all of my boards, but it was really fun out there. I know it's still tough with those cleanup sets coming through, but I wanted to position well and just get those first few waves pretty early. So really happy with how that went.
Becoming an Olympian obviously would be a huge feat for yourself, but Mama Bear right behind me right now, she's been your biggest supporter. Every time I've seen you in an event, she's always been with you. Becoming an Olympian for both yourself and your mom, what would it mean?
Oh, it would be incredible. My first ISAs I did in 2006 when I was 10 years old, and that's where the dream really started of being a professional surfer. I saw Sally and Bethany and Sage there, and it's been a beautiful journey and a really fun ride. But that's the last goal to go to the Olympics and represent Barbados, represent my family, and just do it for surfing.
Well, 3 teams capped off a successful outing at the 2023 Barbados Invitational Masters Football Classic by taking home the top prizes on Monday. Local side Williams 2's Deacons FC secured the over 35s trophy. Pele Masters of the USA the over 50s title, while Winston Enterprises Bajan Masters were the over 40s champions. CBC's Damien Best has the action from the BFA headquarters in Wildy.
Over 35's final featuring Deacons FC in green up against ATP Masters. 7th minute, Deacons navigating their way into the attacking third. Work to do. The cross comes in. They connect the dots, and Paul Soup Lovell with the decisive header. Deacons won, ATP nil. Deacons would seal the deal in the 59th minute via Damian Marshall as they take the over 35's title. In the over 50 showdown now, it was 0-0 after regulation time. Penalties to break the deadlock. There was a couple of misses, but in the final analysis, Captain Bevan Bergen, he would step up to give Pele Masters of the USA the 4-2 win over Paradise Masters. Then it was on to the feature matchup of the night. Bajan Masters, the defending over 40s champions, versus Toronto Football Club of Friends in Red. 12th minute, Bajan Masters displayed excellent control, and it was inevitable that they would strike first. But it happened in the most majestic fashion. Goalkeeper up the creek without a paddle. Cleve, boys, you beauty. That's all she wrote. Bajan Masters, the over 40s champions. Damien Best, CBC Sports.
In business tonight, Barbadian national hero, songstress and entrepreneur, the Right Excellent Robin Rihanna Fenty has made it onto the 2023 Forbes Richest Self-Made Women's list. Rihanna leads the pack of entertainers, landing at number 20. The list ranks the USA's most successful women entrepreneurs, executives and entertainers. Forbes estimates that the Grammy Award winner's net worth to be $1.4 billion, which they attribute to her success in music and cosmetics. According to the publication, Fenty Beauty, which she co-owns with French luxury goods conglomerate LVMH, doubled its revenue in 2022. Rihanna also has a 30% stake in her Savage X Fenty lingerie line, which earned a $1 billion valuation in February of last year. Reality star Kim Kardashian followed close behind Rihanna at number 21 with a net worth valued at $1.2 billion. Diane Hendricks, chairman of building materials firm ABC Supply, tops the list for the 6th consecutive year with a record high of net worth of $15 billion, up from $12.2 billion last year. Well, students from the Youth Advanced Corps and other youth organizations participated in a Get Hired Employability Workshop today. It was sponsored by the Division of Youth Affairs and the Princess Trust International. The Barbados Police Service was the employer on display with the various divisions, allowing for interaction. Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, Tony Wiltshire, gave some background on the partnership.
This partnership with the Barbados Police Service commenced in January 2019 and today marks the 4th engagement with the Barbados Police Service. From previous engagements, over 80 young persons were referred to the Barbados Police Service. This Get Hired Employability Workshop allows interested persons to be well informed about the various units of the Barbados Police Service, and there are several officers here to tell you more about their work. In addition, the recruitment officers are also present. The ministry is committed to conducting follow-up workshops with potential applicants in preparation for their interviews.
Well, 10 departments of the police service were there, and a number of the officers within the unit did presentations about the various aspects of their jobs. Tactical Response, K9 Unit, Traffic Division, Telecommunications, Band, Forensic, Mounted Digital Evidence, and Cybercrime were all at the workshop. Constable 1711 Kyle Hines of Forensic Scenes of Crime explained to the attendees how the division assists in crime solving.
To assist investigators in gathering and presenting forensic evidence for courts and for judicial matters. There are several areas in the forensic department, and I will try to outline some of them now. There are the forensic scenes of crimes officers, which my friend Sergeant Grace here is one. There's also forensic technicians, fingerprint analysts, ballistics, handwriting, and criminal records. I am a forensic technician, and I'm also a fingerprint analyst.
There's a firm commitment from Barbados and Ghana to work on making the much talked about air bridge between the two countries a reality, given the long-standing historical ties and friendship. Both sides expressed a willingness to bring the matter to fruition during a recent courtesy call with Ghana's Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Ibrahim Awal, and other members of his delegation at Ilaro Court. Minister Awal pledged to see how best he could fast-track the talks with his Barbadian counterpart, the Minister of Tourism and International Transport, Ian Gooding-Etchill. Ms. Motley also expressed her deep appreciation for the provisions of pharmaceuticals on the African Medical Supplies Platform to assist CARICOM countries with accessing equipment and vaccines at low cost during the COVID-19 pandemic. Time for that second look at sports. Once again, here's Anne-Marie Burke.
Back to some local news now. A dominant performance throughout the 8 rounds has allowed Kenneth Thompson to emerge champion of the 2023 edition of the Henderson Lane Memorial Drafts Tournament. Held at the Lodge Road Drafts Club, the event culminated recently when the final 2 rounds were played. Thompson, to the left of the screen, led the field from round 1 and finished on 25 points, 4 points ahead of his closest rival David Yearwood, who finished on 21 points. Third place went to Eddie Moore with 19. Thompson received the winner's trophy and prize money from the president of the Lodge Road Drafts Club, Hallam Hope. The next event is the National Youth Tournament, which will commence next Sunday, June the 4th.
We have some information just in. The police have just released the name of the Barbados Water Authority employee who died today in that accident during which he was thrown from a vehicle. The deceased has been identified as 56-year-old Victor Blackman of Fort Hill, St. Peter. Also just in, a Bushhall family is this evening without power and some damage to their property after a vehicle slammed into their home. The Paris family at 2nd Avenue Promenade Road are clueless as to who will take care of the damages since the driver swiftly left the scene, leaving his slippers behind. The family is hoping they won't be in the dark tonight after the meter was disconnected and the power line downed. Police visited the scene to take the report. Cameraman Christopher Wood spoke with the house occupant Kwame Paris.
I was inside on the computer actually listening to music, and I heard the loud commotion outside. When I came outside, I realized that my temporary electricity post was down and a vehicle was there, stationary, parked, and no occupant inside. When they came outside to further look to see what's going on, the person actually ran from the scene. And you were told? I was told the person ran from the scene, and they actually left the slippers and everything and the vehicle running.
And that's our time tonight. Thank you for spending yours with us. I'm Pearson Bowen. For the crew, to all of you, have a wonderful weekend and good night.
Thanks for visiting us. Now, if you want to see more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can always go to cbc.bb for the latest news and current affairs.